I'll actually introduce them. Come on out, guys. And I think we'll have you sit right here.
All right.
Guys, welcome. All right. Well, good morning. And I guess this is welcome to Smart Cities Day here at Cable-Tec Expo.
Did everybody get their smart coffee?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, everything's connected, and so I'm pleased to moderate this keynote session with you guys, and Bill, congrats on the honor last night.
Thank you.
Cable TV Pioneer. So I'm glad you made it.
Thank you.
I'm sure it was a wild night, right?
It was late.
Yeah. You haven't slept, is that right?
What's that now?
You haven't slept?
No.
Okay, good. All right, just making sure. So we're going to be talking a little bit about the challenges and opportunities that smart cities represent to this industry, and also maybe get a snapshot of some of the work that you've both been doing in this kind of emerging growth area for the cable industry. So the first thing I wanted to talk about was smart cities kind of continue to get tested and deployed by both of you. What do you think? What do you think the role of the cable operator is in most instances today, and kind of how should that role be expanded or kind of in the months, years to come, kind of given the network infrastructure you already have in place and the expertise that you have in-house?
Sure. I'll go first. I think the role cable operator has is education. The Smart Cities initiative that a lot of us have in our companies, we kind of understand it internally. But we have to message it right to the cities, right? To talking to city councils, town councils, and kind to explain to them, what we bring to the table, show them, where there's connectivity where they probably had no idea, that our cables were, running right by maybe even their own office, right, so to speak. Right. And then also, I think in that education process, you show them what you've done from a B2B perspective, right? Tell them what kind of B2B customers you have in their city and what those services you've been providing to them too. So I think the connectivity story is definitely really big.
I echo that. I think, there's a lot of buzz out there. If you were at the SCTE luncheon yesterday, you heard David Pogue. He talked about smart cities and his coverage of technology. And that buzz is everywhere, and it comes from a lot of different sources. And when that happens, there's a lot of confusion. And so in some cases, you have entrepreneurs knocking on municipal doors saying, oh, you need to have X, Y, and Z to have a smart city. In some cases, they tell them they need to build a whole new network. And the message that our industry wants to deliver is, the network's sort of already there. It's right out the doorstep of all your businesses and all your homes. And if you really want to do a smart city or any smart city applications, you need to have us at the table. And so that's really, it's no more complicated than that. It's an awareness campaign that we're trying to get out there.
Yeah, and if education is a big part of this and having this discussion with the cities, what's kind of the status of that activity? Are you just now reaching out? Or has it been going on for a while, or do you have some initiatives underway to kind of get in front of these people?
Well, I'll start first. I was prepared for that question. I have a prop.
Right.
So
you give them that? Right.
We have a brochure here that we are mailing out and circulating and hand delivering to a lot of the municipalities and cities, and I will pass this around. So if those of you want to take a look at what we're doing at Charter, for sure. But it's really a lot of work, and we try and leverage our government affairs organization within Charter, who talks with municipalities and cities and state governments to get the message out. We also try and leverage our operation folks that reside and work in these communities to share what we can do. But it's tough because there's a lot of information coming from a lot of different sources, which creates that confusion. And then it's who do you trust? So it's a work in progress.
Okay.
Well, I don't have a beautiful color brochure, so we do have shortbread cookies back at the booth.
That's a start.
That's a
I like that.
start.
I like that. Yeah.
But yeah, it's still a little bit early stages for us, and meaning that we've kind of gone through some large network changes with the Vodafone acquisition and everything, where we're dividing up the networks and who's got who, and then now we'll be able to kind of focus on these things. But it doesn't mean we're not doing things. We definitely are. We're talking to the municipalities that are in the good footprint of our network and kind of like in the sweet spot, so to speak, and helping them to realize that not only are we here, but we also are offering a lot of great services, and kind of give them an idea of services that they haven't even thought of, right? And so I think the key here is that this is going to ramp, in my opinion, a lot. And it's just going to get to be a point where I feel the city, it's a have to have. It's not a want to have. And I think it's just going to move from there. So, in our B2B division, we've got people working on this on a daily basis, and I just see it growing from here for sure.
And when you do approach, you try to take a more proactive role with the cities with education, or trying to engage with them with a specific project. I mean, what's kind of been the reception? Is it kind of go across the spectrum, or are most of them pretty willing to engage, or are some of them a little standoffish and say, well, this is our thing. We'll contact you if we need you, or what's kind of been, if you can even characterize it.
Can we go with that one?
Sure.
So, it's an interesting question. I start by saying, the cities define smart cities in various different ways. Smart cities can be a whole bunch of things. But, I sort of dumb it down to anything you can put a sensor on, we can monitor and provide a service for with the power of the network that already exists there. And so that's the basis of the conversation. The network's already there. What is it that you want to accomplish? And then we can tell you how to best accomplish that, and what the economics might be, and how to go about it. Now, obviously there are other entities that they will talk to. And so how well we communicate the facts is going to be very important, because others are going to try and muddy the water and say, no, you need to do X. And so it's a process. And I think it goes back to your first question is, where are we at? We're at the education stage. And the better we can educate the communities on the power of the network that already exists, can do whatever it is you want to do. Because I guarantee if you go to 10 different cities, they'll have 10 different views and ideas of what they want their smart city to be, or what they want it to do. And so that is part of the challenge.
Yeah, interestingly enough, some of the cities we've talked to, they kind of do know what they want, but unfortunately they don't have the resources, to pay for it, right? And so, how do we look at partnering capabilities, right? Maybe it's a partner with a certain vendor, or it's a partner with us. Obviously, the first ask is always ubiquitous Wi-Fi, right? For everybody that lives in the city and wants to have that kind of connectivity. And then like Tom said, the discussion would move to sensors, and it gets to the street lights, and then infrastructure, and this type of thing. So I think again, it's just it's a little bit slower education process than I thought it would be up front. But in the end, I think we're the most well positioned, right, to get these services to these other cities.
I would add one thing. There are entities or organizations that are helping to bridge that gap. And so there's an organization called US Ignite that we at Charter are engaged with. And they're trying to bridge that gap between the network providers like Charter and Liberty Global and connect them with the cities and entities that want this type of service. We're working with them in St. Petersburg, Florida, on an initiative there, and another entity there called the Gig Community, which I think is more, maybe more localized. I don't know as much about them. But there are these entities that are trying to fill that void that I was trying to describe earlier.
Yeah, how about do you have something like that in Europe, Bill? Do you have like some sort of liaison or partner that can kind of help make that connection? Or
not yet,
still do it on your own?
and I think there's opportunity for companies like Ignite or a partnership with somebody that has worked with the municipalities maybe on like power, water, or this type of infrastructure to bring smart cities type initiatives. And we've not really had anybody that's reached out to us and knocked on our door, so we're moving a little bit, except for in Belgium, they're building a new airport. And they did reach out to Telenet and asked for partnership, not just providing Wi-Fi, but looking to provide other services. Because the airport is designed to bring more like tourism into Belgium. It's a little bit smaller airport, but they're trying to see how they can connect with passengers coming across, right? And so we do periodically get these entities to reach out to us. And what's great about that for us is we can put together a very robust proof of concept, and then we've got a lot of data to go and sell to the other cities and to the other entities.
Okay. And let's talk a little bit about the network, right? So you said, okay, we have a lot of infrastructure in place. You guys are well known for having a wired infrastructure, but on the wireless side, I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about what's happening there. Tom, you had mentioned Wi-Fi is a basic thing, at least for connectivity for people, but you start getting into sensors and low power, different types of needs and connectivity where you just need to monitor things with little bits of data. So how are you kind of extending into that area to supply that? And then maybe we'll talk about some of the technology choices, but just kind of give us a sense of what you're doing.
Yes, simple question. Unfortunately, I have a long answer for the simple question. First, I think you have to start with the concept that all wireless networks are based on a foundation of a wired network. So if you think about all the wireless traffic in today's world, 80% of that traffic ends up traveling over a wired network. So if you understand that concept and you understand the network that we already have in place, we have the foundation of what needs to happen to build the smart city network of the future. If you dumb it down to what we do in our homes today, and you connect pretty much everything in your home wirelessly, whether you're in your home with this device, or whether you have your laptop, or whether you're connecting it to your refrigerator to tell you when you need more eggs and milk, or whether you're connecting it to your thermostat. All that is connected via wirelessly by a wireless network that our industry provides in the home. But when it actually leaves the home, it's leaving on a wired network. And so if you take that concept and you move it outside the home, it's basically that simple. And so what do we need to do to create that wireless component? So at Charter, we already have a national public hotspot network, and we're looking to enhance that network. We also have relationships with other MSOs like Comcast and Altice, where we authenticate across our individual public hotspots. So if you're a Charter customer and you go to Philadelphia, you can gain access to those Comcast public hotspots, and vice versa. If you're in Philadelphia and you go to New York City, you have access to Charter's Wi-Fi hotspots. So that's one step. The other is, we're now in the mobile business with an MVNO with Verizon, as is Comcast and others. So we leverage that wireless capability and things that people are comfortable with. And we're also out trialing what else we're going to do. And so, we're looking at small cells, the CBRS spectrum. We're doing trials in that space along with other trials to prepare us for what all these applications will need to work. So that's what we're doing at Charter.
Yeah, similar for us, we've been MVNO for many, many years. In some countries we're MNO. And we definitely are taking advantage of the mobile network there. We've got some low-RA trials that are out there, and we're also looking at narrowband IoT. And again, the key is just we're able, because in our MVNOs, we own the core, and so we're able to, from a back office perspective, make it seamless to go across. I think the key here is many technologies from wireless side, not try to pick a winner, because I don't think there's going to be one.
Yeah,
right?
so you have to be kind of agnostic, and it's kind of case by case.
Absolutely, absolutely, because a lot of it is geographically or even architecturally what's happening inside of cities or inside buildings or things like that, right? So I think it's key to stay agnostic, like you said, Jeff, and to leverage what the platforms that you have there in place.
Okay, and organizationally speaking, as you pursue smart cities opportunities, either reactively or proactively, which part of your organization is taking the lead on that? I mean, is it the residential business? Is it the enterprise commercial services business? Is it a mix? I mean, whoever the opportunity comes to, or how do you kind of figure out who takes the lead there?
Go ahead, you go first.
Okay, so for us, it's definitely our B2B and enterprise business would be the focus. But that doesn't mean it's going to change, because Soho has got a good growth curve, and you could see that in your Soho connectivity, even in maybe not so much residential, but maybe small business, right? That could be in the residential area, where that type of connectivity, where typically those customers have the higher rates of speed, symmetrical services, and then you would hang off of that sensors or be able to expand into those geographic areas what the city needs for adding smart city capabilities.
Yeah, I have a similar answer. At Charter, it is our enterprise group that actually engages with the community on specific solutions and how it would be engineered and how the economics work. We also leverage our government relations group to help with the education, since they have active relationships with municipalities and cities. And the reason why it's our enterprise group, because today it's a custom solution, and that's really the definition of what our enterprise entity provides to customers and large businesses, and in this case, cities. But that could change, as Bill indicated. So let's say hypothetically, out of all the applications that you do in smart cities, the number one application is managing streetlights, as an example. And so 90% of all the cities want to manage streetlights, and that's all they want to do. Well, now you can make that a menu-driven service and simplify the offering of it and have a rate card and make it very simple. And the simpler you make it, the more cost-effective it is, and it's just easier to deploy. But we don't know what that gotcha solution is yet, and I think that's the evolution that we're living through.
Yeah, I think if they could get on the streetlight thing soon, that'd be good for me too.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of streetlights, there are some really good examples out on the floor of street lamps where it's like modular. It's really interesting because I think one of the concerns that a city would have is like, oh, this sounds great, but if you're going to be deploying a bunch of ugly equipment all over the place, the aesthetically not real pleasing to us or our city, and we're going to get complaints. But then you see these street lamps that are modular. You can put in different types of radios. It's just kind of hidden as part, it just blends in. And people are used to seeing a light post, and versus another box or device. So just to bring it back into a question, I mean, is that is the aesthetics of what you're deploying like a big concern and issue for them, and if so, how are you addressing that part of it?
Well, yeah, I mean, been hearing here in the U.S. The revolt going on with the 5G towers going up in people's neighborhoods, happening in Denver, right? You've seen that. They're big, fat, and ugly, right? And so I think definitely for us in Europe. With our cabinets and things we're doing from that perspective, aesthetics is huge. Has to be, as you would say, heard but not seen, right? That type of a thing. The wireless device hears, but you don't see exactly where it's connected to. And we definitely have talked to a lot of companies who have gone out to electrical companies that own the streetlights up and down highways even, right? And have built the modules that go in, and they're being really smart about it because they're also pushing the idea of changing that light into LED. So you have a power savings, but while you're doing it, hey, by the way, stick in, a Wi-Fi module. And then you can actually mesh these things. So it doesn't have to be, fiber to each pole, right? So it is great to see the innovation that's happening in the space. As we heard from our keynote speaker, the autonomous vehicles, we showed the robot. All these things need connectivity, right? And so I think, again, that we should be the ones that are providing those types of solutions for sure.
Yeah, it's a great question. If you had asked me before I went and visited the Smart Cities display that Charter put up, I probably wouldn't have been able to answer that question. But a shout out to my enterprise team at Charter and the advanced engineering group that put together a Smart Cities display over here on the floor. If you haven't seen it, you should go see it. Because I asked my team the same question. I said, well, you have this Lego city that you've built here, and you have these prototypical streetlights. I say, well, how do we make all this work? How do you connect it? And it's wirelessly. I didn't know. I thought maybe you had to run a wire to all these streetlights to make it all work. And so they have these sensors, much like we talked about earlier. You connect to these streetlights and you interface it with the streetlight, and through wireless connections, you can monitor and basically do anything that you want with that streetlight. Turn it on, turn it off. Only turn it on when there's people there, all kinds of things you can do. And so I was amazed at the capability myself, and if you really want to understand that, go visit the booth before you leave today.
Yeah, I actually had them in my notes here, Lego, actually, to bring up, because if anybody hasn't seen it, it's down there, but I put together like a Millennium Falcon one time out of Legos, and I was pretty impressed with myself. But yeah, you guys took it to another level. And Tom, I didn't know you had such great Lego expertise. There's 50,000 pieces there, 550 or 541 man hours to put that together. So yeah, good job doing that.
Yeah, I cannot tell a lie. I contributed
you didn't do that
0 minutes to those man hours that put that together. And believe it or not, there are professional Lego builders today that do that. If I had known that, I might have gone down that career path.
Yeah, no
that
kidding.
was kind of fun when I was little, but it is pretty cool what they built. And a lot of us, like you, all started with Legos when we were young, and see what you could put together with these little blocks. And now you can turn on streetlights with your Legos and do all kinds of cool things, as well as I think the Lego City also has a parking application in it too, to tell you where you can park your little Lego car.
Yeah, I thought it's a great way to illustrate it. And this part of the segment is brought to you by Lego.
That's,
Just so you know.
that's right. And his budget.
Oh, and your budget. Yeah, okay. Yeah, they didn't tell me how much the Lego City
Yeah,
cost.
surprisingly, nobody told me how much
Okay.
it costs yet either. I'm a little concerned.
That's how it works.
Well, they told me like there were some pieces that were like $10, like just for one piece because they're very specialized. Anyway,
All right.
it's true. So
Next question.
yeah, moving on from Legos. One thing I want to ask was we talked about aesthetics being a concern, for a city. What about security, right? Because we stories in the past about lights being hacked and all that stuff, but obviously it'll be something they'll be concerned about. But I mean, from your side coming into it, what can you provide to kind of give them assurance, that this smart cities network is going to be locked down?
Yeah, I think cable industry for sure brings a strong security message and a lot of technologies to the table. I think we have a good track record there, right? As far as being able to fix when things are being hacked, but to give comfort to the city, and mainly because we've been a partner with them for so long. Right, they know us. We're not a new company walking in with we got the latest and greatest, and oh yes, it's secure. It's secure, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, don't worry about that.
Yeah, don't worry about
Gotta
that.
handle it.
Yeah, let's talk about the contract. So, I think the thing there is that we do have a good background there, but it should be a really big selling point. It should be like bullet point number 2 after connectivity. And so that I think the concerns are real, but I think definitely we have the solutions in place.
Yeah, I would echo that. I think, in our industry, charters is no different. I think the other MSOs are in the same space. Security is a part of the product that we sell. And, we're launching a feature called Secure Connect here starting this month in Texas, where through an app, customers will be able to manage their own Wi-Fi network in their home as to who's connected, how long they're connected. You can actually set timers so that your children, when they're supposed to be in bed sleeping, can no longer access the network from their devices. There's all kinds of functionality like that can secure the network, not only from outside entities, but even within your household of what you want it to do and who you want to access that network. And what a lot of people don't know is we have people back in the dark rooms of our office monitoring our networks every minute of every day for hackers that try and come in and do nefarious things, and they catch all of it. They're really good at it. And we're going to build that same type of security into these types of applications because it's just an extension of the network that we already secure today.
All right. Well, we have like a couple of minutes left, but the last thing I wanted to ask you about was if you had, I know it's still early on, with this whole opportunity, but based on even the early results, what's kind of, if you had to boil it down, what's the biggest lesson you've learned, that you would, tell others, other cable operators as they look into it?
I would say that the business opportunity is very real, and it's definitely there. I think you have to be proactive. Don't wait for them to come to you. You go out there and push our services, and partner, with these cities, and just show them what you have, in your toolbox, so to speak, and that we can help improve the quality of life of their customers, which is the actual people who live in the city, and help them move forward, in creating better products and services that they can offer.
Yeah, I would echo that. I mean, typically we are network providers, and we don't always go and sell specific applications to attach to that network. And I think that's one of the unique differences here. And so if we don't educate the community, people won't understand that you can attach just about anything to our network that already exists out in the public rights-of-way in their respective communities. And, you know, my message to, you know, my team and our company is we can't be afraid to invest in this. And the first investment is in education. So yes, we spent some money on a booth here. We're going to try and take what we learn in that booth and try and bring it out to the communities, because those are the people that need to see that. And, you know, we passed around a pretty expensive color brochure. That's where our investment is right now. And our next investment is what we're doing in St. Petersburg, Florida, and there's a community in California we're talking about an application there. And so when we get a handful of these up, now you've legitimized this, and it'll happen quick. And once you get these applications up and going, then it becomes a word of mouth advertising, and I think that's where we're at this stage of the game.
Okay. Well, I think we're out of time, so please join me in thanking Bill and Tom for their time and insight today. And I think we're going to hand it back to Alex to talk about what's coming next. So thanks, guys.
Thank you so much, gentlemen. Jeff, great job.